Here we go. Another video. This one on advanced timing issues in a project finance model. Now, okay. I'll begin as follows. In this video, I'm going to address three things. First, we're just going to make a basic annual analysis. In our annual analysis, some of the things like plant capacity will not be accumulated, others will be accumulated. It's a relatively simple process with a sum if and a true and false switch. A second video will do the same thing, except now that we have monthly analysis in our models, we go all the way to column OC. We can make everything monthly on a very, very simple basis. Please never get impressed with monthly models. Oh my gosh. Then we might want to make it quarterly. That's not so hard if you use a special little, if you find the end of the quarter for each separate column. Unfortunately, unlike EO month, there's no EO quarter. Horrible. So we have to make our own function. No problem. And we'll show you how to use that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the function itself. And then here's the real problem and the really interesting part, and the reason I'm introducing the video as follows. If you want this to remain on a monthly basis and this to switch after the commercial operation date to a semi-annual basis, and you want it very flexible so you can switch at different times, and you like to leave your operations on a monthly basis but have a separate page for your financing on a monthly, subsequently followed by a semi-annual basis, there's a very good reason for that, and that's because when you repay the debt, you don't want it repaid every month. You want it repaid only, if you repay it every month, the interest expense will be all wrong. So we want to get the interest expense correct. That's how we can do it. You could also, I suppose, put a separate debt schedule somewhere in another page and do different techniques for that, but I think it's a relatively elegant technique. So if you want to go there, just fast forward some of the crap in this video. I'm afraid this might take a little bit long. Okay, so first, shift F11. We're just going to do the first thing. We're going to make an annual. And we've done this in the last exercise, but this one a little bit fancier, okay? Because we're going to also we're going to have this issue with month, with the end of the month. So put month. Now I'm gonna make the radical assumption. You're assuming that the end of the year is. Oh, that's all I do. Did I? Excuse me. Uh-oh. It appears that my Shift Control R is not installed. Oh my. No, that's because I had a different auto open. Okay. Oops. Uh-huh. Okay, excuse me for that. I had to install the fill to the right. I hadn't done that properly. Now, okay, finally, we go to our annual analysis. Why don't we do the following? Why don't we just copy just the first couple of columns of our titles to here. Okay, now we won't need any of this stuff, and so here Shift spacebar, Control minus, Okay, I've done that enough. And let's skip a line or two and put the year of the start of the model. Okay, and then add one to that. Okay, shift right arrow. Probably too much, but let's delete the lines later. Okay. And then let's now, instead of using the SUMIF that we had used before, can you use the SUMIF S? And if you begin, oh shit. Okay, if you begin with the SUMIF S, it says sum range, criteria 1, criteria, it goes backwards, just to make your life a little confusing. So you start not with the year like we did before, if you remember, in the simple timing exercise. We start with this one, and then which is the thing, and then it says, criteria range. Well, that's exactly the same thing. So far, it's exactly like this, and I'm going to press the F4 to lock in that year, and then let's go to the annual analysis and press this one and press the F4 twice. Okay, and then that's just the SUMIF that we're used to. So in a way, there's no real reason to use the SUMIF anymore. Now, if you on the next one, if you want to add another criteria, let's go to the exercise, and this time let's click on the month, press the F4, and then just manually type in 12. Okay, and then what we have is it just sums it sums it for month number 12. And let's shade it all the way down, and it'll do exactly the same thing for every single. Control D to copy it down. It'll do the same thing for every one. Now we're going to delete some of these. Okay, so for the capacity factor, it did it okay. Oh, that's all right. It picked the December one. Maybe there were some changes in the middle of the year, but now we have a problem, because for this one, generation, we don't want to only sum it in the last year. We want to sum it for all the years. So what we can do is put an accumulate. And it's all of these things. Probably just sounding a bunch of repetition. We can put a little true and false switch, and what we can do is take this and say, well, if it's true, that means over here, if it's true, then let's take this whole, sorry, I'm swearing too much today. If this is true, then we take the SUMIF and copy that and put a dot comma. Of course, you might put a comma. And if it is true, we want to take this whole monthly business out of the SUMIF. Well, I hope I didn't screw up. So here, let's see if that happened. False. True. And of course, I didn't, no, just a minute. I'm sure you noticed that I forgot to put a dollar sign here on this one. Okay, so if we put true for accumulate, isn't that kind of cool? False for not accumulating. We can just take any variable, and that wasn't that difficult, I don't think. Now I'm gonna, this time let's copy it down, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn my video off again. Last time, okay, so we don't want any of these blank lines. Construction period, this is all kind of true, and then here's one that should accumulate. take these away. Generation. I'm not sure it should accumulate because it might already be a... Yeah, I think it should. Absolutely should. Okay, and then we so on and so forth. So let me stop this and format. I'm just going to copy it across, Shift Control R, and I'll do a little bit of formatting, and I don't think it's worth you to watch that. Okay, I formatted this, and so we accumulated the CapEx, the revenues, the OpEx. Most of it worked just fine. Got the IRR for depreciation. It was kind of cool. You could put the balance without accumulation and show the depreciation expense. And then on the NOL balance, it's not perfect because this opening balance is the opening balance of December, as of December, so not perfect. Finally, I just computed the IRR, which is almost the same. All this monthly business really didn't do anything in terms of accuracy. Now, with different inflation and different IRRs, it might be a little bit different, so I'm not saying that. It's always the case. Okay, now let's do the same thing. How about we'll this time press Shift F11, and this time instead of making an annual analysis, we'll make a quarterly analysis. Okay, and how about this? Let's take the first few columns of the sheet and copy them. Is that all right? And then this time, stupid thing. Okay. And then this time, I suppose we can do the same thing. This time, let's put how about we'll start with a date. So on the very first one, let's start with, well, we have to make the first date an end of the quarter date. So I'm not quite ready to do this. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do almost the same thing. Okay. But this time, just underneath here, we need to put end of quarter. Now, I've tried this all sorts of different ways, and I firmly believe in the function method. And what we'll do is we'll go to the developer tab. We'll go to we'll import a file, and the file we'll import this time is the one that says end of quarter. Well, did I do something wrong? Open that file. It puts it in a new module. There's the end of the quarter. Now let me explain what this end of quarter does. It says if the month, first of all, you read in a date. If the month is 1, then we take an EO month and add 2 to it. If the month is 2, we take the EO month. So if the month is January, EO month 0 would be January, EO month 1 would be February, EO month 2 would be March. If the month is 2, so it's February, then the EO month would still, plus 1 would still be March, because EO month 0 would still be February and 1 would be March. If the month is March, we'll use the March. Same thing for April, May, and June, and so we just have to make a tedious little function that should have taken almost as long as the time that I just explained it to you right now. Why Excel couldn't put it in? I don't know. Since it's such a helpful thing for anybody who does quarterly analysis. What did we call it? EO? So we put EO quarter, and it looks like I also read in EO half year when I did that. So what we do is we just take this month, it doesn't really matter. Take the beginning and the end, Shift Control 3, Shift Control R. You see, it's just giving you the end of the quarter associated with all of these things. Okay, and then once we have this one, Q-U-A-R-T, looks like I don't have an R in there, Q-U-A-R-T-E-R. Okay, and let's just begin with the very first end of the quarter. Okay, and once we do that, let's put equal EO month, not quarter, because, and then we go back to the last one, and I think if you put 3, you'll get the right answer. Is that right? I hope it is. So let's do about this many quarters. Oh, it looks like the end of the quarter is the end of June, I think, isn't it? Oh, oops. Let's... okay, that was an inefficient way to just do that. Okay. I like shortcut keys, obviously, but if you like the mouse, it's just a matter of style these days. And let's put an accumulate. Okay. People with rules that you have to use shortcut keys. Oh, oof. And let's put a true. Yeah, so we'll do the same thing. If this is true, I'm going to do the same whole long one first. F4, then sum if S. Okay. And what we'll do is first look at the sum range, almost exactly the same thing. So this is purely at this stage just a review. Okay, and then that's no F4. Remember, that's the only thing that doesn't have an F4. Okay, and then we say, well, oops, the criteria range. And this time the criteria range is the end of the quarter like this. So what it will do is it will, you notice we have 3 Junes over here. It'll sum it for the 3 Junes, sum it for the 3, and blah, blah, blah. And F4, and then we go down to the quarterly analysis and just press this and press the F4 key there. Is that right? Okay. And we could be finished here, but let's make one more criteria. And on this criteria, let's make the month again. So for some of these, we only want to do it at the end of the month, remember, and we press F4 and then 12. And it says, okay, I didn't put a false condition in, and we'll just copy the same thing here. I should have, we'll have an extra bracket. Yeah. Did I do that wrong? Of course I did. Okay. And on this one, remember, we'll take the, this stuff away. Okay. Shift Control R. And we've got the quarterly. Oh, did I put true? Oops. False. Is that how you spell it? Okay. And in this. Oops. Oh. Okay. I made one mistake. And for that one, I put, we should have used an end of the quarter switch, which just tests whether this thing is equal to this end of the period equals the end of the month. Okay, and then we use that instead of the month switch for our quarterly analysis. So then we've made the whole quarterly analysis in just the same sort of way that the annual analysis is made. Now let's try the last thing. And the last thing may be the most important, and that's where we put, instead of, we're going to make kind of, we have a year here, a end of quarter here, and then we have I don't really know what to call this, date for project finance analysis. And it's project finance because we haven't really done any financing yet. That's going to be in our new sheet. Now, if it's the monthly sheet, monthly period, monthly, if it's the construction period, we're just going to say our end of the period is the same as the end of the month. Otherwise, we're going to take the previous, we'll use an E date, and take the previous month, not an E date, how about an EO month, and take the previous month and increment it by 6 months. That's the idea. Okay, and just let me copy this. You don't have to let me copy one. Excuse me about the last thing. And now I may or may not be able to take that last thing where I made a mistake and redo it. If we want the date, here's what we really have to do, is we put in first just the month of the commercial operation date. And the reason you need that month is, depending on the month, some of the coding changes a little bit, and you want it to be really flexible. So if we put what was this? EOHY. That was my little function. Now press the tab. Now here's what I really want to do. We put the date in. I'm going to put the beginning of the month for the date, and then if I put in the fiscal month I don't know what to call that. I've got to come up with a better name for that, don't I? This is the month of the COD, really. Why don't I'll change that in the function and try to add some help screens to the function. And then if you press OK, that says, okay, well, let's go. If we want to close this half year to after March, it's kind of like the quarterly function. We can get that. And then that's still the closest half year, and then we get to June, that's okay, but then when we get to July, it goes to December, and so on and so forth. And you can see why we need the 7, because the 7 defined when we start the whole process. So we have December, and then June, and December, and June, and all that. Now there's one problem with this, and that's if it's the construction period, just like before. So if I don't erase the last one, I hope you don't get mad at me, because that's what we should have retained. We shouldn't have done that other one. Okay, and so this just gives you the regular half-year function, and then now we can accumulate over the half year. So we can make another page that has month-by-month analysis, and then, whoops, switches to half-year analysis. And then, why don't we switch the commercial operation date from July to, how about we'll put it in 11. And when I made this function, this kind of stuff took me a long time to get right. Why that thing just happened just now? Oh, no, this is okay. That worked. So now the end of the half year is either April or the very end of October, okay? And we keep on a month-by-month basis until that. So now that's maybe we'll do it right here. Let's press another Shift F11 function. Okay, I did it wrong. Why I can't press shift, okay. And we'll call this our project finance analysis. Now this one, we're not going to use the half year. If I could spell that right. Okay, this time we're not going to bring in all those other variables like we did. The only thing we really need desperately are, I'm going to put, we'll start with transferred variables. And the things that we should transfer, number one, are EBITDA. Number two are capital expenditures. Number three are depreciation expense. And number four are working capital changes. Okay, and I think we'll stop there, and let's get the very first. Let's start by getting the very first period, and I think this time, why don't we just go with the end of the month? Okay, I suppose we could even go here. And then I suppose we can do a couple of other things, but let's put the COD date. So we need to move this over here, and then once we move it over, then can you we'll put the COD date, I'm sorry, the date, and then we'll put the COD date here, and we'll have a little if test, and the if test will work by, if it's greater than the COD date, we switch to a semi-annual. Other than that, we'll just use the EO month. So let's try this. We'll put equal if the prior date is less than the COD date. I'm very worried I'm going to get this off by 1. Then, if the prior date is less than the COD date, then we just take the EO month and go to the prior date and just add 1. Otherwise, we'll use the EO month and take the prior date and add 6. Okay. And let's press Shift Control 3. So we have March, and then we really want to see what happens right at 2018. Whoops. Shift Control, right arrow, how about Control Space Bar? And then once you do Control Space Bar, this is a lot more efficient way to do it. So I went out to the 2060 somehow, and that looks good because, and how about this? Let's just show you the conditional formatting in a slightly different way. Whoops. How about this? Shift Control right arrow, Control Space Bar. Let's make a conditional formatting, and on the conditional formatting, new rule as usual, and go all the way back. Whoops. Okay, oops. I guess I have to first click on the new rule, and then we'll go all the way back, and we'll test this one, and we'll press this one F4 a couple of times. When that row number equals this one. Then we're going to format the whole sheet, or the whole row. Okay. And let's do our light little fill again. I think we did something like this before. Okay, and we press OK. And when we hit October 31st, 2018, okay, first of all, our conditional formatting didn't work. Excuse me for that. I'm gonna, just a minute. Okay, we're getting there. I made a mistake because we should have tested this, of course, against the beginning of the month. So I just added a little opening balance type thing where you just take the closing balance and relate that to the opening balance. Now the next thing that's a little tricky is the this one. So the conditional formatting worked, but it didn't work perfectly. Started to go May, November, May, November, May, November. But I think for the very first one, we put it in service at the beginning of November. So our very first 6 months, this was the end of the construction period, should be this. Now to rectify this, you just put a little plus sign, not on the beginning. We have to take this +1. So we're not, this was the, and then let's try this, Shift Control right arrow, Control O, and go across to the, and now we're at April, October, April, October, April, October. And when we went to this one, once we went across and found our correct month, we were at April, ooh, all the Aprils. Don't scare me like that. October, April, October. Is that right? So here, April 19th, October 19th. And the final thing to do is then to transfer the variables. So we just put equal, I'm so used to the sum if, and we click this time on the range, and this range is that row, and then we compare that range to the project finance analysis, the closing, and we press the F4 twice, and then let's go and collect only the things we really need. So what was the first one? Okay, it's almost this pre-tax stuff really is enough. CapEx. So I did CapEx, and you know, why don't I do this? Let's move this one. Oh, excuse me, Control Y. Take this depreciation expense, cut it, and move it here. And put these down here. Okay, and then let's copy one more down. Put on this depreciation expense. Instead of taking 129, we'll go to this one. I should make another analysis, another video that shows you how to use the indirect command. So, whoops. Is that okay? Did I? Okay. Oh. I thought I took the depreciation expense. I'm pretty sure I did. That's the depreciation rate, the depreciation expense. Okay. Perhaps I didn't. Shift Control R, and we have our CapEx And then, oops, right there we have some zero little thing. This is EBITDA. This is our something wrong, and we'll finish this in a minute. So, okay, I had just taken the wrong variable. You probably noticed that, and I put a negative in front of the capex. We have a working capital change that's really big, and then it keeps going up, I guess, as the revenues or cash flow is growing. The very last period, there should have been a whoppingly big negative change in working capital. I'll look at that, but maybe the lesson is that just by looking at some of these variables, you can start to and on a rather than on a month-by-month basis, you can start to really kind of see a little bit more what's happening. Okay, that's that. And the next video, we'll take this little analysis and finally put some project financing into it.